an expert in marketing. But the topic for today is how to attract your first clients. So this is, as you may or may not know, that coaching is my second career. I've been doing it about, I don't know, 12 years or something. My first career was in the corporate world. I was an executive, took positions of, finance initially, but more leadership and organizational change things later as my career went on. And I was a mentor. Spoke at leadership things. I was a big advocate for women. And that's why my target market is high potential corporate women who've hit some sort of a pain point. Maybe they're not getting promoted, they're disillusioned, they want some sort of change. But it's very specific. That's my target market. And when I started my coaching business, I had a partner who knew a lot more about marketing than I did. So I learned a lot from her. And then over the time, I've learned some other things. But today, what I'm going to do is share some concepts about how Lynn and I, and then I on my own, got our business going, how we attracted those first clients. So while I pull up the slides here, why don't you put in the chat box something that you would like to gain from today? We will have, oops. Are you there? What happened? Can you see my screen?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay, I got to go back and start over here. I didn't think so. Where's my exit? There we go. Clicked the wrong thing. Hang on. Well, what happened? Bear with me.
Maybe I'll remove you from, I
All
don't
right.
know.
No, there. Okay. Do you see me? Okay, there we go. I was looking for screen share and somehow I lost my bar.
Susan, as you are sharing, we already have a couple of comments on the chat.
All right. And let me get
we can see your screen.
All right, let's get us into presentation mode. There. All right. Well, sorry about taking a little bit of time. Where's the chat box? What are we hearing? What would people like to hear from today?
How to get started, build a client base, and make coaching my full-time job. Yay.
Okay.
Susan, I'm interested in hearing some of your stories from your startup days.
Yeah.
Dealing with the eternal question, to niche or not to niche? That's the question.
Yeah. How to keep them coming in.
How to keep clients coming in, simple approaches to maintaining a warm market, and any other stories from your beginning. So a lot of people are interested in how you actually started, since most of us are there on that stage. How to get them to say yes when money's tight, balancing sales, marketing, client pipeline building with the fun part of coaching, which is meeting and working with clients, ditto to all, making an impression in corporate contacts, becoming a corporate partner for coaching, and learning about ICS certification.
All right. Well, we're going to cover some of those. Some of those are actually some good ideas for some future topics. Because here's what we are going to cover today. I'm going to talk about what I call foundational events, the kinds of things that got my business going, and then talking about how to build that to keep it rolling and get that my husband calls it a grass fire. He says, when you're starting your business, it's like starting a grass fire. And all you got to do is blow a little wind on it and it will spread. So we'll talk about how we build on that foundation and grow the grass fire. We'll have time for questions and comments at the end. If you've got questions along the way, go ahead and put them in the chat box. If I can pick them up as I go, fine. Otherwise, we'll come back to them. We'll have plenty of time at the end, which I think I'll probably talk for maybe 20 minutes or so max. All right. So let me tell you a story about the very first thing that my partner and I did. And it was what I call the foundational event one, the free workshop. We were starting from scratch. I was not a coach. She was an established coach. But we had this idea, but she was an established coach in Arizona. We had this idea that we wanted to do workshops for women on how to build a fulfilling career. But no one knew us. No one knew us as a partnership. No one knew our work. They knew me from my previous corporate role. So it was a whole thing about who are you? What are you doing? What are you, what's your brand? What are you going to offer? And why should I come to you for anything? So we had these concepts for the workshops, and the first one was called Building the Foundation for a Fulfilling Career. But no one had any reason to sign up for a workshop because, one, they didn't know we were doing anything and they didn't know what it was about. So we decided to start with a free breakfast event. We created some content for about an hour-and-a-half workshop. And at that workshop, it was a title that was intentionally, and content that was intentionally designed to attract people that would be interested in the workshop. It was called When What You've Always Done Doesn't Work Anymore. We didn't have any money, so it had to be simple and cheap. So we had simple food for breakfast at a local restaurant, which was owned by a friend. So he was closed during that hours. He let us use his space for free. And we were off and running. But how are you going to get people to come to this? So we, and by the way, that comment, when what you've always done doesn't work anymore, that got people's attention. Titles of whatever you're going to do matter. It's got to be something that's relevant, that's something that identifies their pain points, that sparks interest, and that they know they're going to get something from it. So, and in this case, when what you've always done doesn't work anymore was a specific lead into building the foundation for a fulfilling career. So how do we get people there? We talked to people in our networks. We emailed them, we called them, we introduced them to what we were doing, and we told them about this free breakfast workshop. And we said, basically asked them to spread the word and invite people to it. Now, when you're going to ask people, they will do you a favor if they're either connected to your cause, they like what you're doing, or they like you. So that's what we did. And not only did they invite others, we had one woman who was so excited about what we were doing, she actually contributed money and paid for our food. So that was great. We ended up getting about 30 attendees, 30, 35, something like that. It was about what we wanted. So if you're going to do this, whatever your first free thing is, and you need people to attend, you've got to start with a personal connection and asking people to help spread the word. That's what we did. It was a 1.5 hours in the morning, easy to say yes to, not too long. And we followed the hero's journey way of storytelling. And I'll say a little bit more about that later. But we established credibility, we told stories, we offered content, we made it interactive. It was all fun. By the way, storytelling does matter if you're going to be doing public speaking. And just this last week, I was at a 2-day leadership conference, and one of the speakers was Kindra Hall, Kindra. I had not heard of her, but she's a storytelling expert, and she has some books and stuff out. So if you're interested in doing public speaking, learn the art of storytelling. But then when you get to the end of a free anything, you have to make an offer. And some of you probably heard me talk about this before. That's the part that's least comfortable and most awkward, but you got to do it. What we did was when we finished up, we told them about the workshop and we made it a very deliberate process. We went around and we told them to pull out their phones, look at the date of the workshop, put it on their calendar. And this was a paper sign up that you could do all kinds of sign up for your events, but we went around and handed out sign up sheets for them. And we sat there very quiet for a little bit of time, just that awkward silence, but that's when people take action, is in the awkward silence. And then we said, for the first, I don't remember what it was, 3 people or 5 people or whoever that sign up, we're going to give you a discount of X, but you've got to be back to the back of the table with your thing all filled out. All of a sudden there's this huge buzz and people are filling stuff out and they're running to the back, signing up for our workshop. So that was pretty cool. We pretty much filled that workshop that day, but then we also told them that after, within the next, I don't know, 7 days or 10 days, if they told a friend, that we would give, I don't know, some other incentive. I don't remember what it was. It was a long time ago, but it was probably another incremental financial discount. So then we encouraged them to go out and bring their friends. We ended up from that one breakfast event filling our first workshop. So what was the process? It was short, it was free, and it was relevant to our target market. Someone asked to niche or not to niche. If you don't know what your niche is, this is my opinion. If you don't know what your niche is, how do you know who to talk to? Make it appealing. So a topic that's appealing, free food always helps. Invite your network of contacts relevant to your target market. While you're there, you got to tell them who you are, establish your credibility, give them some value, but don't give them everything. Create some sort of a buzz and give them an incentive to sign up for the next step. That's what we did. We actually was following a marketing strategy and a marketing process, and I can tell you it worked. So that was foundational event number 1. Here's another one I call foundational event 2, the free speaking gig. Going beyond when I was just trying to get coaching clients on my own, for me, I did speaking. Now, all of this does assume that you know who you want your ideal client to be. So my ideal client was high potential corporate women who had hit a pain point. So all of my marketing material was geared towards them. All of my speaking gigs were geared towards them. And I was able to use my network of contacts to get me speaking in front of women's groups, ERG, women's professional groups, people that were my audience where they would hire me. That was my sweet spot. Now, the hard part, again, was making the offer. So what you can do is offer to speak at organized events where your target clients will be in attendance. Develop a few relevant topics to offer them. Mine were things like avoiding career detours, shedding the shoulds, which is a whole guilt thing that was very common to my target market. 1 hour max, like 45 minutes to an hour. And again, deliver value. Now, you can't just talk and finish and walk away. You've got to get something that gets them to the next space. What I would do is I would have a drawing and give something away, usually a book or a workbook or something like that. And the way I would do it, and I'm sure since I was doing this, there are lots of more high-tech ways, but I had the plain old little strips of paper that said they put their contact information on there, their name, their contact information, and then I had them check a little box as to whether or not they wanted to have a coaching discovery call. And then they put it in. They had to do that to be qualified for the drawing, so most people would do it. It also gave them an opportunity to identify if they wanted to have a further conversation about coaching. So something that where they specifically take action and they give you their contact information and they indicate whether there's something they want to do. Now, what do you have? Now you have them on your contact list. You have whether or not they're interested in exploring a coaching call. And then I would take those, and if they were interested in a call, I would follow up personally on that. I didn't just wait for that. I didn't just send them, here's the sign up link, or here's where you can find me. I actually reached out to them and talked to them to see if they wanted to have that next step. So what I think is you can do the same process in whatever venue works for you. I did not do video. I just was never really comfortable with it. And I also tried online advertising, and that got me zero. If you find it's different for you, that's fine. But for me, I found coaching is a personal business. AI has its place in the world. It's going to do a whole lot of things, but it can never replace the one-on-one relationship that they're going to establish with their coach. So it was clear to me that people were hiring me after they'd had a personal experience with me and after they valued my previous experience. Yes, as coaches, we don't go tell them what to do, but you will find that people will be drawn towards, I found that people were drawn towards what I had done because they thought that would be somehow relevant. But they had to have that personal experience. So I had to personally connect. I used to do about one speaking event a week. And in 2020, all of my in-person speaking gigs went away. I tried doing the same thing over Zoom, but it just wasn't the same. I could give good presentations, but I couldn't walk up to someone and look them in the eye and talk to them. I couldn't have a conversation with them afterwards. It just wasn't the same personal connection. Presentations were fine, but it didn't yield any business. When I was doing in-person speaking, I had a conversion rate pretty consistently of 10%, which is pretty high. So out of a group of 30, I would get 3 coaching clients. And that's pretty good. Out of a Zoom attempt to do the same thing, I think in all the Zoom things, I got 1 client over the course of a year. So I just quit do them. But I feel like the process, regardless of the venue, is the same. You create some sort of personal experience, you establish credibility, you give value, you always leave them wanting more. You don't give them everything. Create an opportunity for a follow-up. Get their information, their contacts, so you can somehow maintain the connection and then have a way of maintaining and building the connection. So, which brings us to the how you keep them warm. Building on the foundation. Okay. At some point, you're going to have to close the sale. And every time you create a point of contract, you've got to create interest in the next step. So our free breakfast workshop led to a one-day, they paid to go to a one-day workshop, which then led to smaller coaching circles, which then led to one-on-one coaching. There's probably marketing people would call it a marketing funnel or something. I don't know. I'm not a marketing person, but each point of contact adds value, creates interest, and offers the next opportunity. So that's one thing. You always collect their contact information and you stay in touch with them. Oh, another thing I would do is I would have these little once a month, Friday morning coaching over coffee. They were very low cost. I don't know, I think I charged $25 or something, and get a small group of people. And they would come and we'd have a small group coaching topic. And then that was then the creating interest and leading to the next one is for individual coaching. speaking, you speak, you get their information, exploratory call, and then you've got to have the conversation and close the sale. But at an absolute minimum, you want to collect their contact information and have permission to stay in touch with them. And be visible, be present, whether you do it on LinkedIn, whether you do it on any of the social media, wherever your target market is hanging out, that's where you want to be visible. Over time, as my client base grew, I would have a periodic appreciation event and have them to invite a friend. And that was just another way of blowing a little wind on the grass fire. So, you're going to have to find whatever venue that is right for you. Now, there are a lot of people that say, I'm going to do good things and I think I will get good things back. Yes, I get that. I believe it. I do it. I do a lot of favors for people. I do a lot of things just gratuitously because I want to help people. Fine, do that. And have a marketing plan. So you've got to have some sort of marketing plan. And I say, don't give anything away for free unless you are doing it with an intentional path to create revenue, or you're just doing it pro bono and you have no intention of ever getting this person or anyone they hang with to, you just want, I do pro bono stuff too. Nothing wrong with that. But strictly pro bono, if you're going to give something away from free, if it's strictly pro bono, let it be pro bono. If you're going to give something away for free, make sure it has a definitive and intentional path towards revenue. So I think that is all. Yeah. Okay. So let's just go to questions and comments and go from there. I like to keep the content light and the discussion more so.
Susan, there are already 2 questions regarding the first event, when you invited people to your free event. How many people did you invite to get 35 attendees?
I have no idea because we didn't invite them. We just reached out to, I don't know, 10, 15, 20, I don't remember how many of our personal contacts, and they invited them. And what we did though is we created an online flyer. I should have pulled it up and I could have showed it to you. It was actually pretty cool. It was an online flyer that had the title, the information, the content, the marketing. We asked them to forward it to people. So I have no idea how many it reached before we get 45. If I can stop share while we're still talking, I might see if I can find that flyer for you if you're interested. Okay.
Sure. There's another question.
How did you find speaking gigs?
Yeah. How do you find speaking gigs?
Yeah, number one, first was to know who my target market was. And mine was a little easier because it was corporate women. So I went to people I knew in the corporate world and said, listen, do you have a women's group? If you do, I'd be happy to speak and hear some of the topics I speak on. And it wasn't that hard. And then people in the audience would want me to come speak at their thing. So it starts with knowing who your niche is, where your clients hang out, and then looking for people to go ask to do that.
Yeah, Susan, if I may, that was my question. And I have been reaching out to some specific groups, but I've been doing it more through research and trying to find the right person on their organization's board, that would be creating their events or their meetings. And I don't get much response. Did you find it's better if you can get a name and like you said, know someone so you can speak to them in person about doing that?
Yeah, I mean, I will, I can see that, because if you're not a name, if you don't have a specific, individual human being, I think it would be easy to get overlooked. So yeah, all of mine came through personal contacts.
Thank you.
Susan, so I'm curious with the speaking engagements, if you start out for free, were you able to later get them to pay you?
My deal was, what worked for me is I had a certain set of topics that they took some time to develop, but once they were developed, I could just go do them pretty easily, and it didn't take a lot of investment on my part. But if they wanted a longer workshop or a customized workshop, then I would charge.
Okay, so certain topics are freebies, and then outside of that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, I found our, if you'd like to see it, is this it? It sure is. This is our, boy, this is taking me back. This is the, this was our very first flyer that we sent out. So it says it's a 1-hour breakfast seminar designed for women who feel stuck or just want to give their career a boost. And then it's like, do you relate to any of these? So you're connecting with their pain points. And then we talk about what they'll get from it. In this seminar, you will gain the keys to take you from frustration and confusion to meaning and purpose. Learn how to uncover what you need to differently. And then we gave the details, and we sent that to our personal contacts and had them spread it around. And I guess they did.
Thank you for sharing, Susan. Do you create your own flyers and marketing material, or do you have someone that does that for you?
No, we did it ourselves. You know, it costs a lot of money to have someone else do it. We did hire, in the early days, we hired someone to create a color scheme and a logo for us. But after that, we did it all ourselves. I'm sure someone else could have done it better, but it worked. Can you send us a flyer as a PDF after the session? Oh, okay. Yeah, I'll send it.
Yeah, you can actually, Susan can, I don't know if you can attach it here, but you can send it to me and I'll be happy to email everyone. Shri has a question.
Hello, everybody. So I have a question. So basically, like nowadays with the COVID and everything, after COVID, will webinars have the same effect in your opinion as you did for the seminars? And the webinars do not take much infrastructure, only the content development, and that would cost to the presenter a lot of less value, but gain more people if they make it free, and then that way more people can attend from their home office, wherever they are.
Yeah, I did a couple of webinars, and there's a process to that too. And you still have to, let's see, what I remember of learning about webinars is you have to repeatedly throughout the webinar give them a teaser or hint of what kind of thing you do. And at the end, you still have to make an offer. Must work because some people do it. Didn't work for me. So I think if you're going to do a webinar as a marketing tool, you should probably read up on some marketing and how to do it in that venue, because I found that they were all interested in the free webinar, but they didn't follow up.
Thank you.
But some people do it, so it must work for some people.
Susan, Mike says, nice job on the flyer. Do you send the link to social media or only email to your contacts? And if you were going to do it again, would you post it in LinkedIn?
Oh, yeah, I definitely would. When I was doing workshops and stuff later on, and once I was established, once people knew me, I could put stuff on LinkedIn because I had followers. But I mean, when we were doing it, no one knew us, no one knew what we did, no one knew what the product was. So that's when it was important to have some sort of personal referral. But yeah, later in later, after I was more well established, I would, when I was giving workshops or something, I would also not only, but also put it on LinkedIn or whatever your effective social media venue is. Thank you, Mike, for the comment on that. Not bad for an accountant and a coach on our flyer, huh?
Susan, thank you for sharing your marketing journey a little bit. What considerations did you have in partnering up with someone to building a business in terms of aligning the niches? Do you share prospects, or what's the value of doing that together?
That's almost another story, and I'll give you the very short version of it. I had left the corporate world and I didn't know what I wanted to do. I had narrowed it down kind of to two general categories. And I ruled out one when I went to a friend's wedding and I saw all these people that I knew from the corporate world hustling business. I'm like, not doing that. That's not how I want to spend my time at a wedding. But this Lynn, who I had met, she was, I guess, calling on Shell when I worked at Shell. I was in Tucson, which is where she lived, and I offered to get together with her. We went out for coffee, and this whole thing about sometimes things just happen and the universe does present itself. We just started talking, and it seems that we both had an interest in this. I mean, literally over that coffee, the workshop was born. And that was in August. So we're like, well, we should really do this. And then by October, we had content developed. And then literally we were on a call one day and we're like, we don't have a company. We got to figure out how we're going to get people to come to this workshop and how we're going to collect. We don't have a bank account. And literally in the course of one phone call, we created a company name. We started working on a website. We created a bank account. So if you thought I had some definitive process, the answer was no. It was just things kind of lined up. I'm sure. Now, what my husband would tell you, because he would say this, he goes, if you're going to have a partner, it's like getting married. And there were some things that we had to work through over time where we kind of had different goals, different objectives, different philosophies. But we did it for a couple of years, and then we ended it very harmoniously.
Beautiful. And what considerations did you take in terms of location, considering she's in Tucson, and I'm assuming you were in Houston?
Yeah, I was in Houston. She had a client base in Houston. So she would just arrange her client calls around our workshops and vice versa. So, and it's not like we were doing them every week. You'd do one every few months or something. Mm-hmm. And then we actually did in some of the follow-up things like the coaching circles, we did those virtually.
Susan, can you type on the chat the name of the lady that you mentioned is a storytelling expert?
Sure.
What other questions do we have? Sandra?
Yes. Hi. Excuse me. Thank you. So, Susan, I'm just curious. You talked about this event-based marketing approach that you had and your successes. And I'm just wondering, when you consider that approach versus just sort of your marketing and your relationship development that you had ongoing with all your contacts, and you probably received some clients through your network. Where would you say that you got more clients? Was most of your client base developed through these events, would you say?
In the very early days, it was event driven, because the other thing, and maybe many of you are doing this too, the other thing I was doing is I was changing my brand from being corporate executive to coach. And back in those days, they would want to send people to me to mentor. It's like, okay, well, we all know that's different. Mentoring is free and it's a different process. So for me, anyways, it was part of making a deliberate change in my personal branding. If I were just building on something that I'd already been doing in the past, maybe maybe it would have been just more personal one-on-one, because I did get a lot more of that as time went on. Actually, I've not read any of Kelly's asking, are there specific books of Kendra's that I recommend? I've not read any of her books. I literally just met her via this or watched her via this leadership conference. So I'm guessing that, and she's a story, that's her area of expertise, is telling stories. So I would guess any of her books. So I don't know what the story edge is about, but sounds to me like it's about storytelling. So she was good. I will tell you that. She was very good.
For those of you interested in storytelling, we've talked about this in a previous session. His name is Donald Miller. His books, his YouTube are very insightful, and he's all about storytelling. So if you're interested in exploring that more, I highly recommend Donald Miller. Lorraine, you have a question?
Yeah. Susan, can you share with us about what % of your work time you spend on marketing?
Oh. I used to try and keep track of that stuff because it was the old accountant in me coming out. But
Well, just a, just a
probably more than I wanted. It's not 10% and it's not 20%. It's probably a good 30 to 40% of the time. That's just a guess.
Yeah.
And I don't know, someone said, how do you get to do the fun stuff of coaching? I mean, that's why, and you may have heard us, other people talk about different modes and ways of coaching. I mean, that's why some people do subcontracting. You don't get paid as much, but you don't have to do all the marketing yourself either.
Thanks. Well, that gives us a little perspective though on, maybe what we should be putting into it in terms of our energy.
Yeah. I don't know, probably a third of the time, maybe 40%, not more than half. That would be like just become a marketer at that point. So
Thanks.
Roshni?
Hi there. Thank you so much for all this great information. As a fellow CPA, I just wanted to kind of commiserate because I have reached out to a lot of my friends in the accounting world. As you know, I've grown my coaching practice, and it's so hard for them to forget the fact that I'm no longer a practicing CPA. I still have my license, but that I'm a coach. And I just wanted to, see how you deal with that, how you deal with people that know you, they're in your network, they're your go-to people, but they still like see you in a certain way. And this coaching thing that you do now is just, it's too foreign to them to associate you with.
So Rashmi, what is your, who's your ideal client?
So I look at high performance leaders in oil and gas that are facing pain points such as insecurity, imposter syndrome, basically, getting in their own heads.
Okay. And you kind of said this, but what would you say are there one or two challenges or three? What are they, what are their pain points? You said, I think you started to say it. Maybe I just didn't.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of them that I meet, they're going into, say, partner positions from the Big Four where we were working, and then they're going into C-suite type positions, and they're probably in their late 40s to early 50s, kind of facing that imposter syndrome. It's a big one on whether they really, fit the role of the C-suite positions that they're being offered. Mm-hmm. So basically, they're facing a lot of self-doubt and insecurity of where they are in their careers.
Okay, so they're not accountants.
They're not practicing accountants anymore, but they're still CPAs. Yes.
Yep, they're CPAs. So one thing I just seems you could do is quit talking to the accountants. And not totally, but instead of talking to people that know you as a practicing CPA, maybe you could find venues or connections at that next level up in the Big Four, or go to the Big Four HR people or their events or their whatever, or offer to speak at it or do something at a C-suite circle, or create your own event. But people will always ask you to do what you've always done because that's how they know you. So it sounds like I did, you'll have to make a more definitive switch and just look for venues that maybe they're still CPAs, but look for or create a venue that is more about your target market.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. Good luck. Good luck. I mean, you can.
Thank
You
you,
can do it.
Rashmi. Letty?
Hello. I was just wondering, Susan, when you were getting started and doing your events, did you have specific frameworks or references that you followed to design the content of those events, or did you just figure it out with your partner?
We used the hero's journey as a way of storytelling, and a few basic principles. We use the hero's journey as a way of storytelling, which has to do with establishing yourself and credibility through a story. It's about building the need. It's about reaching a point that is the point of no return, that it looks like the problem can't be solved. And then it's about showing a solution and letting people know that they too can come through that. That's probably not an act, but you can look up the hero's journey. So we would use that. And then we just thought about how do we want to be known? So we designed both our venues and our approach to, our style. And we wanted to be interactive so people could participate, but that's about it.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing.
Sri?
Yeah. So I had the same question as Rashmi, and so it was like perceptions. How do you change perceptions? So I was thinking like maybe personal branding might help, but that only takes you up to a certain, certain perceptions can be changed. Not all of them. If people perceive you and choose to perceive you to see in that particular, bandwidth and same particular style, so it's quite difficult. To change anybody's perception, but I was wondering if you have some guidance for us.
Here's another question that comes to me. What about your history, your experience up until this point, do you want people to remember? And you're welcome to share, or you don't have to.
Yeah, so basically, like I want the persons like whom I've interacted before to remember me as a like from the personal side more than the professional side. Okay, good ethics. Some, for example, just simple, or like approachable person, or somebody who can come and talk to about problems, and then we can find resolutions together, something like that. So more than what I achieved in my career, or I did this project right or wrong, or something like that.
Mm-hmm. So you don't want to be, you don't want the project part of your history is not relevant, but
Yes.
style is that you're approachable, you're a problem solver, you can be trusted. So it's your personality. Because for me, I wanted people to remember I had been an executive because that appealed to my corporate audience. And I wanted them to remember that I had been a leader, and I'd been an effective leader and someone that cared about my people. So that part I liked. What I didn't want is for them to think of me as being a early retired Shell finance professional. I got asked to be on the board of the Shell Employee Retirees Association. And I'm like, no. So say no to anything that accentuates the part you don't want to be. You don't want to be a part of your personal brand. And by the way, I think you said something about personal branding. From this point forward, everything you do, everything you say, every venue you show up in is in fact a part of creating your personal brand.
Okay.
So yeah, just think about what parts of yourself and your history and your experience do you want, and start playing those up. Maybe forwarding articles on LinkedIn or to whoever that accentuate that. Writing blog posts or whatever your thing is, or talking about things that display you as that caring, trusted problem solver who can be a thinking partner as you're going through your difficult times.
Yes, thank you. That was very nice, very useful.
Yeah. Yeah, you're going to keep getting at exactly. One of the other things that I learned at or heard from a speaker is Craig Groeschel at this leadership conference last week is your to-don't list is just as important as, and maybe more important than your to-do list. And that we grow more from saying no than we do from saying yes. So part of creating your new brand, and someone asked in there, how do you get them to say yes when the money is tight? That's a tough one. You're going to have to, as we all have had to learn how to close the sale. But just be careful about selling yourself short. Yeah, you've heard me talk about that before. But yeah, what's your to-don't list as you craft this new image and brand for yourself?
These are the books that I wanted to, I have to probably, I don't know if you guys can see the Building a Story Brand by Donald Miller. And the other one is The Coach Builder by Donald Miller. There's two really good books that I recommend for you guys for anything that has to do with starting your coaching business, storytelling, and selling. He talks about selling. And if you are into Marketing Made Simple, yes, Javon, Marketing Made Simple is a good one as well. And he has a podcast and a YouTube channel that are amazing. I will post this on the chat. Absolutely. What other questions do we have? We still have 5 more minutes.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, hi, my name is Rajeshri. So the question I have is more about building the coaching skills. I understand that when you started, you were an executive, so this part of it is involved in it. But then what else did you learn or did over the period of your journey, which helped you improve the actual coaching skills?
You know what I remember was the hardest thing? Obviously you've all been trained and just keep learning. But I remember the hardest thing being, and it relates to that personal brand and how people know you. The hardest thing was people wanting me to just tell them what to do based on my personal past experience. And of course, that's not what we do. At the right time, you can tell a story but I don't know. For me, that was a kind of be constantly reminding myself, because if you've been in a leadership position, you're supposed to know the answers, right? So if someone asks you, well, what should I do? or worse, the harder one is like, well, what would you do? And because you want to say, well, what I would do. No. So learning to just, in the midst of those, turning it around back into a coaching moment, that was the hardest transition for me. Because I liked having the answers.
Would you recommend any specific course, certificate, any structured way of learning the coaching skills?
Oh, well, I mean, there are lots of good coaching programs out there. I went to the College of Executive Coaching. There's IPEC, there's Coach U, but definitely, have you had coaching training yet?
So I'm very new to the ICF. I haven't had any structured training as such.
Okay. Yes.
So that's why I wanted to know, like, what are the ways of learning? What are the ways of developing?
Yeah, I was making assumption that you perhaps had more training than you had. Definitely go find, and I'm sure anyone here can share what training they've had. Go find a structured coaching certification program, not just an occasion. I like the idea of having a complete. I did my first X number of hours, whatever it was, in person. I know there's a lot of online, but I liked having a place where I could get together with a common group of people who were going through the same thing. And I will tell you, I formed some lasting friendships out of those. But yes, go find a structured coaching certification program and then build from there.
Would you recommend any of the programs?
All I know is the one I went to, but I know a lot of other people have had good ones. So like I say, I know IPEC, Coach U, people can probably put in the chat different ones they've done, College of Executive Coaching. There are a lot of them out there. Just make sure they are accredited with the ICF so that it works towards your credential.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Rashri, you can go to the ICF main page, and there are all these certifications listed that are accredited by them. So you can actually go into the ICF Houston, but the ICF global page, and you will find resources there.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
So and if we've got another question, that's fine. But the one thing I would just tell you all, and you're at various points in your journey, is get used to being uncomfortable. Here we get trained in coaching, and that's all the fun stuff. Get used to being uncomfortable in the marketing part of it, and it will get easier. But make your marketing intentional. I was really lucky that my partner, when I first started, really did give me a lot of coaching on that I had no sense of reality of what it really took. So learn about it, get someone else to talk to you about it, and make it intentional.
Rashmi?
Oh, I just wanted to, share something with the group, and it's just such a reminder with the importance of storytelling. I've learned in my own experience, just using case studies that we've all individually worked on with clients being a great opening for a storyteller in our discovery sessions, or just when we're talking to somebody. It's not necessarily just to sell what we do, but it's also just to make a connection with our niche and what we're passionate about in terms of helping people.
I think that's a very good point. And I will tell you, I have one story I tell, or no, let me say it differently. I have one experience from my career that was a near career ending experience. And I learned so much from that. And I tell that story in various ways, depending on the point I'm making, and everyone loves it because they find out that, one, I had a disaster, Two, I learned from it, I came out, and then I make it relevant to what I'm teaching, or if I'm speaking, how it relates to what I'm speaking about. But storytelling is powerful.
Yeah, that's a great example. My example is I was with Arthur Anderson. My husband was with Enron. So we always have a great story to tell.
Oh yeah, you've got some good stuff there, I'm sure.
Well, it is 12:59. Susan, we are so grateful for all the wonderful information you have shared with us. Your experience is just so enriching for us. So thank you. I know everyone here has learned something from you today. Lots of thank yous here. If you guys want to join our WhatsApp chat group, send me a text, please, and I'll be happy to add you. We share some information there. You can ask some questions there when in between monthly sessions. So, and if you have a topic you want us to bring up in a future session here, feel free to reach out to me as well, and I'll be happy to ask one of the master coaches to help us with that. Susan, thank you very much. Thank you everyone for attending, and we'll see you next month.
All right, can I say just one last comment for you all?
Yes.
And that is, well,
Yes.
first of all, thank you. I appreciate all of your questions, but you all have experiences and stories to share with each other as you're on this journey. So whether you do it in the WhatsApp or the group or some other way, make sure and share what's working for you and what's not. We learn a lot from what doesn't work. All right.
Thank you,
Thank you all.
Susan.
Thank
Good
you.
point. Bye, everyone. Thank you.
You.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rashmi.